This is Paul Sanneman, the founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where we help contractors build winning teams at contractorsstaffingsource.com. I can say that. Today, presenting an episode of Business Success Tips, where you can learn to make more money in less time and have more fun. I have my guest, Jonathan Drees, who's a founder of Peak Business Performance, and he'll tell you why you should listen to him. So, Jonathan, give me a little backstory.
Yeah, so actually, so we're in Peak Business Solutions. I started about 2 years ago. I've been working in property management, and a lot of that role was working with contractors and doing project management. So I noticed through that experience that a lot of these folks working in the trades are working extremely hard and putting in long hours, and um, a good number of them I could tell would struggle to be able to turn in invoices on time, and I'd have to reach out to them to do that. So started digging a little deeper and figuring out what these companies needed, and saw that my skill set really fit what they could use on the back end. And I think kind of similar to your story, Paul, that just there's important things that need to be done in the business outside of just serving customers, and a lot of these folks don't have the time to take care of it.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about exactly what it is you would do for a contractor.
So it kind of depends on the engagement. There are what I consider kind of some low-hanging fruit items, like setting up some systems of automation with receiving new work requests, setting up financial tracking software if that's already in place, things along those lines, and then can kind of get into some deeper engagements with companies doing things like providing admin support, bookkeeping support. A lot of what we help out with is kind of strategic planning, and we also have some people on our team that help out with professionalism and coaching and things along those lines. So we're still developing, but trying to narrow in our scope a little bit on what contractors and other small business owners really need to take stuff off of their plate, free up their time, and allow them to focus on their business and developing systems of how they kind of uniquely serve their customers and get
So
back
a
to the reason they started the
question for
business.
you, Jonathan. Would you suggest at what size do people need to have an external bookkeeper versus hire their own bookkeeper? Is there any how big should they be before they try to do it themselves versus outsourcing it?
I mean, I'd say they should try to outsource a bookkeeper from the jump. The sooner that you have a grip on your numbers, the sooner you can make better decisions on how to go with your business. I mean, I don't really know a revenue rate for hiring an internal bookkeeper, but I don't think it's entirely necessary to have a full-time bookkeeper probably before $2 to $5 million. But
Okay.
it depends on the company, because contracting books can be complicated and a lot of transactions going on. So
Right. Now, there seems to be an ongoing debate, and I've had some different opinions on this. Some people say QuickBooks Online doesn't work, especially with Procore. Other people say QuickBooks Online is just fine. And other people say, no, you have to have QuickBooks Desktop because it does better accounting and it works better for a contractor. Do you have an opinion on that?
So I personally have not used QuickBooks Desktop, but I mean, QuickBooks Online has great functionality. Kind of surprised to hear that it wouldn't work with Procore, if that is actually the case. I know from a webinar with JobTread that either they currently are not working with desktop, or they're phasing out their integrations with desktop, mainly because QuickBooks, I think, is just not going to be updating desktop going forward.
Okay.
So I would recommend online, just from dealing with software companies, and I think Intuit themselves seem like they're really trying to urge everyone to go in that direction also.
John, what would you say the biggest mistake contractors make, accounting mistake that contractors make when they either do their own accounting? What mistakes do they make that cost them money?
Well, I think the number one mistake is probably not using an accounting software and not knowing the numbers for sure and having a good, accurate, precise look at the numbers. Because I mean, there's a lot of ways to estimate what your numbers are like, but if you're not keeping track of costs, um, not actually keeping track of income, where it's coming from, where your money's going out, it's very difficult to know how to structure your business. So that's number one. I think also not tracking work in progress, and what you have, kind of essentially what money is in your business that isn't actually yours. That's out there to go towards purchasing materials and paying for labor that has come in from deposits for projects. Um, those are a couple of the big things.
Now, question
Past
on
that,
work in progress can be like a real problem because you've got work you haven't
it's
done
tricky.
yet, you've gotten paid for, and work you've gotten paid for, you haven't done yet, and everything in between, right? So you say you've got a
Yeah.
project and you got a deposit. You got the money, but you haven't done the work yet. Another job, you're billing monthly, you've done $100,000 worth of work for them and you haven't billed them yet. So in
Mhm.
accounting, how do you account for those?
So it's kind of tough. There are some calculators out there that you can get that will allow you to put in um, like estimations of how far you are in progress in the project, what the deposit amount is, um, what you've paid so far on the project. I would recommend using a calculator of some sort that's set up. I mean, it's pretty hard to get any sort of accurate view otherwise,
But
I
what
would
does a
imagine.
calculator do? And can you give me an example of one?
Yeah, so there's a company called APB. I'm pretty sure that's where I heard of you guys actually. And they have a good calculator. I don't know if it's free or if you have to be a member to get their calculator, but essentially the way it works is you put in how much money you receive for the project, what you estimate the margins to be, um, and how much you've paid out so far. And then you do that for each project, and then it'll calculate what your work in progress amount is. And say it's $100,000 that you should then know that you should keep aside $100,000 in a bank account, um, and then include that kind of in your books. So the way they recommend doing it is that at the end of each month, when you're closing out your books, you do a double entry between your balance sheet and your P&L to kind of reflect that amount of money so that you're calculating your profit margins correctly based off of what you should be holding aside.
Now, is that done for each job? Is it done in accrual? Is it done in cash? How does that work?
Uh, Depending on how the company operates their books, either cash or accrual, and it would be like for each job. I mean, you calculate all your jobs and at one time that are going on, and then you get a total for what you should be holding aside for work in progress.
So for each job, let's say I took a $50,000 deposit, but I haven't started that job. If I'm on cash, that's going to totally screw me up because that isn't my money. On the other hand,
Yes.
I've done $100,000 of work and I haven't billed them yet. And so
Mhm.
either in cash or accrual, I've got a liability for all those bills and that's not going to show up. So I'm trying to
Exactly.
calculate my profit on that job. Job A, I haven't started yet. There's 50,000 cash profit. I haven't done anything. Job B, I've done $100,000 worth of work and I haven't billed them. I haven't got the money. I haven't got the bill. How do
Mhm.
I calculate where I am on that job?
The job B, where
Yeah.
you've
I've done
haven't
all
gotten
this
the bill
work,
yet.
but I haven't billed anybody yet.
So that also comes into the calculation, that you are, at least with the calculator from APP, that you are out of pocket X amount of money on that project.
Right.
So essentially
But I'm out of
go ahead, sorry.
pocket, but I will be able to bill for it. So when I'm figuring my profit and loss, let's say
Mhm.
I've done, pick a number, I paid out $75,000 in labor and subs and whatever. But I'm going to bill for 100,000 at the end of the month. So in theory, I've made
Yes,
$30,000 because I'm only going to pay out seven.
correct.
So I'm looking at my accrual P&L to be accurate. I would say, okay, there's $30,000 I've made on that job. My cash
Mhm.
accounting system is not going to show anything I'm building yet. My accrual system
Yes.
isn't going to show me that I made any money because I haven't built them yet. But the
Uh-huh.
reality is, in quote, real time.
That is the receivable,
Probably,
essentially.
yeah, I've actually made $30,000 on that job, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Essentially at that point it'd be receivable that as long as they pay it, then
As long
you're
as they
set.
pay. But if I haven't
Yep.
billed yet, it doesn't show up in my accounting system, right?
Yeah. Yes. And so also kind of going back to another accounting type of advice that I would give is set up progress payments sooner rather than later. I mean, from an accounting aspect, kind of like you're saying with this, it becomes a little muddier to account for projects if you haven't actually received money for that project. So if you're doing like a 50% deposit, 50% upon completion, it's really hard to figure out what your actual profit margins are if you're not
Right.
bringing in money semi-regularly
Right.
to
Well,
have in the
my
bank.
recommendation is, I know it's an accounting nightmare that people bill weekly, because
Mhm.
I've found the biggest problem after doing this many, many years with contractors is most contractors have a couple jobs they literally never got paid for, did not
Yeah.
get paid what they deserve because they waited too late, they didn't put their change orders in, they billed late. And my experience is most of contractors work for people, at least that I know, that have more money and resources than they do. So if a client owes you $100,000 or $50,000, whatever, and you go to court, you're going to lose because they
Yeah.
got a gun
Exactly.
and you got a knife.
Yeah.
So I recommend that you bill early and often. If you can, stay ahead of the billing, because if they owe you money and they don't decide to pay it, you're probably never going to get it.
Yeah. Agreed. And I mean, I think that, like I said, that was a big reason I started my company, was because I was working for a large property management company. And I mean, the the amount of accounts payable just between contractors either not invoicing until way later or you're not invoicing correctly, um, that you can get yourself in a lot of trouble if you're not staying on top of your invoices and doing them properly.
Right. And then the problem is you're not current. And let's say you send in a bill and it's 30 days late, then
Mhm.
it's longer and hard. The longer you take to bill, the longer harder it is to collect, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I mean, highly recommend people off the bat, as soon as they can, get a software like QuickBooks or something like that that allows you to invoice easily and keep track of your funds. There's just so much upside. I feel like it's one of the lowest hanging fruits out there.
Absolutely. Um, so you've done accounting for contractors. Um, how do you get a contractor to bill when they're supposed to? My experience is even my clients are paying me money as a coach. I would say, if you've done your billing, I've got around to it. My dog ate the homework, pick an excuse, and they just don't
Mhm.
get their billing done because they're too busy surviving.
Yeah.
Have you found that a case, and how do you get guys to do it?
So I have found that to be the case. And I mean, that's an aspect of my business. It's helping to do that for them and having people on staff that will help out with the billing and invoicing and paying bills. So yeah, it's one of those things I mean, folks in the contracting business work extremely hard. There's so many variables that happen with projects that it's really hard for them to prioritize to and doing those kinds of things. So, um, I mean, I'm sure you guys know from your business too that I don't know how often people reach out to you for admin staff help in the contracting
Right.
business, but if you can get that admin help early on, it will make a
Well,
world of difference. Totally
someone
worth the
said,
investment of.
if you don't have an admin person, you're the admin person, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Um, so let's cover the area of change orders. How often and how should you bill for change orders? How should you approach the client on change orders? How big should they be? I think it's where a lot of contractors may leave money on the table. How do you suggest they handle it?
In the ideal scenario for change orders, from my understanding, is that they should be charged at a premium and potentially charged at a like as an entirely separate project. It kind of depends on the change order. I know in renovation remodel world, a lot of things can change between the initial quote and then the end of the demo phase
Mhm.
when you that's kind of where things tend to pop up, and a lot of the change orders will happen around that point when unforeseen circumstances arise. So that's kind of one area for change orders. Where those I think are more reasonable. I mean, it's necessities come up that need to be done to get a project completed. Whereas there's another change order that I would say is just a client changes their mind or they want to add scope after the project's been started. And so with that, it can certainly throw a wrench into operations, depending on how much you're booked out. So to, I mean, kind of to handle that, either you have to find more people to take care of it, or you're bumping someone. So either you charge a premium to be able to fill or facilitate getting it taken care of faster, or you charge it as a separate project and
Right.
they kind of need to wait back in line.
And one of the things I find out in change orders where I make a big mistake is, let's say you're getting into a wall, it's full of dry rot, you didn't expect it, or you're digging in the rock, there's rocks you didn't expect, or something shows up. There's a balance between, if I take in a perfect world, you get a written change order before you do anything, because you may not get
Yeah.
paid for it if you get a written change order. But here's the situation. I'm going to give it to you. The guy is working on a big custom home. He's digging in the foundation. He's giving a price of foundation, and it hits a bunch of rocks he did not expect. It's like they're huge boulders here. So the problem is the foundation is going to cost, pick a number, $40,000 more than they thought it was going to cost, right? But he's there, he's got his crew there, he's got a backhoe there, he's starting to dig and his huge rocks, right? So question is, the client's in Europe. Client can't be reached or hard to reach. And if he stops digging, it's going to screw his entire schedule up. But if he keeps digging, he may not get the money from the client because he hasn't got a signed change order. What should he do?
That's a tough one. I feel like I haven't really seen too many scenarios where the client can't be reached. And I probably want to talk to a lawyer about that and see what kind of restitution you could get. But I would say you keep doing the work and go back to the client with it.
Right. I've seen that happen a lot. And even with the client can reach, sometimes the client, they can't get an approved change order and they keep digging or whatever they do. And all of a sudden it's $40,000 more than they thought it was going to be. And the client says, I did not approve that $40,000 and I'm not going to pay it. And it's never fun because you haven't got a signed change order. Maybe something in your contract that says they should agree, but they never actually did anything in writing. My experience is you're going to lose. I've got guys literally eat $40,000 because what happens is client never approved it. They gave a price for the foundation and pick a number of 100. Now it's 140 and they're charging 40 more. The client says, I didn't approve. I'm not going to pay it. They will not get paid. And so, I have a lot of my clients that where they end up, not getting paid $50,000, $80,000 is they didn't have the guts it took to stop the job, right? And say, until it got a signed change order, it's not going to happen. Or another one is the client says, yeah, I think about it. There's nothing in writing and they have to keep the job going. Or a big one sometimes, Sean, is the client hasn't paid the bill, right? It's the 30th and the client hasn't paid. They bill the client and then all of a sudden they say, do I stop the job? Do I pull off the job? Because if I do, my entire schedule is going to go down. But the client hasn't paid me the money he owes me. So what do you think they should do? They're 10 days late, they're 15 days late on their payment. You're moving along on the job. Should you stop the job and pull off, or should you just say, okay, fine, I'll do it and hope they pay me?
Yeah, that scenario, I would say stop the job to get paid.
Yeah. And everybody, most of the people I know that didn't get paid made the wrong decision.
I mean, it's easier said than done for sure, but
I mean, the thing is they go, and they want to be an optimist and they keep the job going. And then the client's 15 days late on that. Then they're 30 days late. Then they're 60 days late and they keep doing the job and they keep arguing with the client. I've got a client now, they're done with the job. Client owes $130,000 and they're gonna have to look in court. Because
I think going back to some earlier items of making sure you're getting good deposits up front, you have a good pay schedule in place, and also you have a good contract in place, and kind of do some contingency planning to know how you.
But your contract is only good if you enforce it, right? So
Yes,
if you
exactly.
don't pull off the job, my experience is you probably will not get paid. Because a lot of those
Mhm.
people that do that, they're sort of those kind of people, you know what I mean? They just,
Yeah.
they play that game.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there that I think have earned their wealth from not the best practices. Definitely
Right.
a minority, but
But they don't pay. Or the contractor says, well, I trust. I think a lot of time the contractor projects their values onto the client, right? You go, I
Mhm.
pay my bills, he should pay his bills, or she should pay her bills. And sometimes it doesn't happen. And when it doesn't happen, I can tell, I
So
can't think of a contractor I've ever worked with that hasn't written off a ton of bad debt because the client didn't pay. Um, I keep telling him to do it, but they go, oh yeah, but da 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 da. Learn the hard way.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Jonathan, if you were meeting a client you made a contractor in an airport, all right, never going to see the guy again. But he says, man, my accounting is so screwed. I haven't billed, like I'm 30 days behind on my billing. I'm not sure what I'm making, losing money on jobs. I think I'm doing okay. I look at my checkbook, there's money and I figure I'm good. If there's not, I figure I'm not good. You got 10 minutes to talk to him. You're never going to see him again. He's out of here. What advice would you give that guy?
Oh, off the bat, get QuickBooks, get a bookkeeper, link your bank account to QuickBooks, and give some level of instruction to the bookkeeper, and try and carve out as much time as you can to spend with them to categorize your books and figure out where everything's actually going. Um, but yeah, I feel like there's a few simple steps. Like if you can, for him to be able to prioritize his time, it would be those first things is, yeah, get QuickBooks, link whatever bank accounts you use for your company in QuickBooks, spend time with a bookkeeper coming up with a chart of accounts that's relatively simple and makes sense. And that way they are set up so they can then start um, linking and categorizing your charges and then reconcile your books and do a cleanup.
Okay.
But I mean, that's still not quite 10-minute explanation, but I think that's where the conversation would go.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. That's good advice. Okay, Jonathan, if people are interested in working with you or hearing what you have to say or want to have like a discovery call, how do they get in touch with you?
So one of the best ways to get in touch is if you go to my website, which is peakbiz.solutions, and that's PEAKBIS.solutions. You can fill out a request a consultation form, and I'll get in touch with you. Also, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. This is a good way to get a hold of me too, just directly. It's Jonathan Drees on LinkedIn, or shoot me an email. My email is john@peakbiz.solutions. And yeah, those are the best way to get in touch. Also, I mean, if anyone gets in touch with me and lets me know that they're from Contractor Staffing Source, I'm happy to give them a free strategy session and come up with a road plan for them and help get them
Cool.
on their way.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. So I thank you, John, for being on the show. And if you're having issues with accounting and booking, I suggest you give Jonathan a call because he sounds like he knows what he's doing. Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate being
So
here.
yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate you inviting me.